July. Oh my God, that would have been a very different movie.
Yeah.
I mean, watch Vampire in Brooklyn, which we will.
We will, yes.
But oh my God.
And the weird thing is, the only reason he wasn't cast is he was too expensive. Because this was clearly a low-budget production. Because they actually did film in Cabrini Green.
Be with me, Helen.
Although at the same time,
I want to see that movie
I know
badly.
But you know what? He doesn't even have to play Candyman. He just has to play the fake Candyman.
That would have been even better.
That have been
no,
awesome?
You know what? No.
What?
Charlie Murphy could have played.
Oh shit! You're right. Yeah, Charlie
Candyman.
Murphy could have played the fake Candyman. Oh my God, we just made a better movie. I'm not lying. That would have been awesome.
Candyman with the Murphys? Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they actually they filmed at Cabrini Green the exteriors and things like that.
Actual?
Yeah, the actual Cabrini Green, and they actually paid the gang members to protect them and to kind of leave them alone. So there's a bunch of warring gang factions that were literally blocking the whole thing. So they paid them off. And in fact, in the opening scene when they first go to Cabrini Green, and there's a bunch of dudes standing around, and they're all calling out to the white girl that shows up. Those are all gang members, just flat out members.
Do you also want to be in the movie, guys?
Yeah, I'm sure that they used part of that. They they knew it was time to leave when one day, the final day of shooting, a sniper shot a bullet into the production van. And they were just sort of like, okay, guys,
I
think we're done.
That's a wrap.
Yeah, so they basically, they hauled ass and got the
fuck
out.
Wrap it up. This is what you get for shooting movies in Chicago.
Yeah, really.
In the 90s.
Yeah, so Cabrini Green was actually built in 1942 to 1962 as public housing for lower income families, and demolished from 1995 to 2011. So they don't even exist now. It's part of it is still low income housing, but it's mostly just
they probably gentrified it.
Yeah, they kind of did. But it's still low income, but it's not what
it's
it was.
Probably middle to low.
Yeah, it's a lot of split level houses and things like that nowadays. So, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around on all my notes, so bear with me here. So, the director originally wanted his wife, who was an actress named Alexandra Pig. I'd never heard of her in my life, still haven't.
You're an actress, she could change that name.
Yeah.
Change that last name.
You'd think. I mean, in all fairness, your husband's last name is Rose. Come on, man. Alexandra Rose? That's just a name. But, she dropped out because she was pregnant. So, kind of can't run around with the Candyman if he's pregnant.
No.
So, and also the second choice, the producer desperately wanted Sandra Bullock.
God, Eddie Murphy and Sandra Bullock in Candyman.
Right?
Jeez.
That would have been definitely an interesting film. So, this movie has a lot to do with bees and such. So, a lot of the stuff is interesting because Virginia Madsen is deathly allergic to bees. So they had an ambulance. They had an ambulance and paramedics on set every time they were dealing with the bees. Those bees were actually bred for the production. They found that
bees.
They were show bees. They had their own dressing room on the top of the on the top of the building.
Fucking right, they did. Put a little star on the door.
Yeah.
Show bees.
Bees. So they were bred, basically they found out that when the bees are 12 hours old, because bees generally only live to be 24 to 48 hours, so when they were 12 hours old, they look fully grown, but they don't really sting much. So it's kind of because their stingers aren't usually fully developed, so they're like, hey, let's get them when they're 12, and maybe we can not all die. That being said, Tony Todd was stung over 20 times.
It's a living.
Yeah, really. But the scene where he's got the bees in his mouth, they were in his mouth.
Oh.
All they could do was put a mouth guard in so he didn't swallow any.
The thing you do for movies.
And he had to do that. And apparently, the way they had to do it is they filled his mouth with bees, and then they started dumping the bees onto Virginia Madsen for the scene, and he had to wait with fucking bees in his mouth. And then eventually, he opens his mouth and the bees come out. And it's that's fucked up.
For someone who's known for his voice,
that would be scary, I would think.
Those things with the stingers, real close to the moneymaker there. Real close to the throat.
You'd really think, I mean, and yeah, you're right. Tony Todd is second coming to Keith David as far as awesome voices, so... Yeah, you wouldn't want to fuck with that.
No.
So enough of the bees. There is one more interesting fucking thing that this production did that was just so messed up. Virginia Madsen, in every scene with Candyman, was full-on hypnotized.
So they brought
in a hypnotist.
They brought a guy in.
And he hypnotized her and had a click word.
Oh, did one of those woo?
Yeah, did that like woo thing, right? Which, I guess she's susceptible to, because, the way hypnotism works, if you think you won't be hypnotized, you won't be. Because that's how your brain works, but I guess she's susceptible to it. Completely full-on hypnotized.
Oh, so that's why she's all like... Oh.
Yeah, because there's actual key moments in the flick. If you watch, she don't blink. Her eyes go dilated, and she doesn't blink. That's why she's crying. It's not because she's like, oh my god, I'm so emotional. She's not blinking. Her eyes are turning red as you're watching it, and tears are coming down her face because her eyes are not closing. So her eyes are just welling up.
The wheel is turning, but the hamster's dead.
Yeah. And there was one scene where she doesn't remember the entire day. Because...
Well, that's what you want.
Because in the very beginning, because the director had the click word, right? So he would say it, and then she'd go under. And, I guess it was an all-day shot with Candyman, and she doesn't remember the whole day. So the next day she came in and just went, fuck you. We are never doing that again. I don't care. So he'd, come closer to her, with that look in his eyes. She'd be like, get the fuck away from me.
So, she's in catering that day, having her bagel or whatever.
Yes.
A little cream cheese. Mm-hmm. Just talking it up with Tony Todd, whatever. Yeah. Oh, we're going to shoot today. And then he comes fucking creeping up behind her. It's like, hey, Virginia, Oklahoma! And then gone.
Yes. And
gone for the rest of the day.
And then she's just like, yes, okay, Oklahoma.
Because that's got to be the scary part, because it works.
Yeah.
So now he could just, anytime he wanted to.
It's just like,
Oklahoma!
Where the fucking wind blows. So, yeah, that's a little creepy. So,
don't be susceptible to that stuff, guys.
Yeah. Just accept that you can't be hypnotized, and you won't be. Everything will be copacetic.
That's how you get framed for crimes.
Yeah, you think, right? So, yeah, so... That was that, and that was basically, so she was just like, fuck this, I'm never doing this again, I'm out, peace out.
Never again will Virginia Madsen be hypnotized. And yes, I'm speaking about Virginia Madsen in the third person. So yes, we get to the movie proper.
We do.
We start with bees. Go figure.
I know.
And Tony Todd voiceover, talking about blood and guts. And
yes.
Blood is meant to be spilled, and very gothic and very... Blah.
Yeah.
Candyman story. Two characters you never see again.
Yes.
It's implied that it's real?
Well, it seems like it is. That's what they imply. The whole idea... Okay, so everything about this story and in the book is it's all about urban legends. That's the whole thing.
That's what Helen and her partner are...
Yeah, they're researching. They're writing a thesis on urban legends, and they happen upon the Candyman urban legend, and they think that's the most interesting, so they follow up on it. Ironically, in the book, that's not what they're doing, and I kind of liked it better, because in the book, they're not... They stumble onto the urban legend, because that's... The urban legend, it plays a much bigger part in the short story. They're actually just there to talk about graffiti tags, like spray painting and stuff like that, graffiti and things like that. That's what they're researching. And then they stumble onto this. Whereas this is what they're doing, and it just seems a little, I don't know, something about it was just like, wow, that just is amazing that it just so happens that you've got an urban legend right down the street from where you live. Huh? How convenient.
So they tell the story, a guy and a girl. They're gonna get it on.
Right.
But she tells him the story of Candyman, and then she goes upstairs, and as she's looking seductively in the mirror, she says Candyman. It's 5 times. Last week we made the mistake of 3.
I hadn't seen this movie in a long time.
I'll be honest with you, I think it's just the whole Beetlejuice of it all.
Yeah.
It's Beetlejuice 3 times, so it's Candyman 3 times, so it's Candyman 5 times. So she says it, and then she screams.
Yeah.
He shows up, he guts her, because he's got a hook for a hand.
Yes.
And I don't know the type of house this person has. But y'all need to look into contracting, because blood should not be going through the walls like that, because he looks up and just blood is pouring through.
Well,
there was no holes.
Well, okay, here's the thing. and this happens a lot in horror movies, I do feel like when you live in a horror movie world, there are holes in your ceiling leading up to the second floor every time. Because this happens.
All of her blood was dripping on this guy.
Happens in a lot of films. You know, and some of it can't be explained. So I just assume that there's holes in everyone's ceiling if you're in a horror movie.
Like, I get the whole Amityville of it all, where the walls are bleeding.
Yeah. And, you know, in Nightmare on Elm Street, the, you know, more blood than could ever possibly be in Johnny Depp's body shoots out of that bed, so of course it's going to leak onto the ground. Yeah. This one, I just think there's holes.
He just cut her a little bit and just kind of...
Well, I mean, he didn't cut her a little bit.
Well, yeah, what is it?
From your groin to your gullet. So basically, he's just slitting from nuts to stomach there, which is his MO, except for the one kid in the bathroom. But we'll get to that.
Well, that wasn't him.
Yeah, that's true.
So she tells a story, and the whole story is...
It was in the book. That's why it confuses me.
Yeah, so the story goes that he discovers her and his hair turned white. Mm-hmm. And that's not the only time that someone tells the story of somebody's hair turned white.
That's a big plot that keeps coming back. But
people you never see, by the way.
Yes.
So they're in class.
Low-budget horror movie.
So they're in class. Xander Berkeley shows up, character actor.
Yes.
As Trevor.
24.
Yeah. And Walking Dead recently as Gregory.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, haven't seen it in a while. Good. I like him.
So he's is she mad or is he mad? He's mad, right? Like, why are you doing this so soon?
Yeah, he just thinks.
No, she's mad because he's introducing urban legends, and she's like, my thesis is not done yet.
She's like, why are you doing this? I thought you said you weren't going to do this until the next semester. And I mean, at first it starts out because there's some like co-ed that's like giving him the googly eyes. And Virginia Madsen's like, so you want to introduce me to your friend? In a subplot that they do pay off, but really seems pointless.
Yeah.
Really does.
Because he's like, you think less of me.
Yeah, like, how dare you? Like, what is wrong with you? And, yeah.
Anyways, she's doing her paperwork in her classroom, and the cleaners show up.
Mm-hmm.
And they know about the Candyman, because they're from Cabrini Green, and that's where the legend kind of is strongest.
Yes.
And... So she's like, oh, I'll get her, because she is one cleaner going, but there's a lady that actually lives at Cabrini Green, so she calls her, hey! This lady wants to talk to you about Candyman.
No, she doesn't say it's about Candyman, which is why this is my favorite performance, because it's like, no one seems surprised by this. Like, the other lady walks in, just goes, alright, she wants to talk to me, walks into the room, says hi, shakes her hand or whatever, sits down.
Is it about the death that happened, Ruthie?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's more so about the fact that, like, the Helen just looks at the friend who she's never seen before and just goes, so tell me about Candyman. And this new woman doesn't blink. Just goes, well, as if it's fucking, like, you know, just like the story I've been telling for fucking days now. Like, it's just, it's the most common thing in the world. Like, there's no look of shock on her face of, like, oh, Candyman? Like, nothing like that. It's just, she just goes right into the story. And I'm like, that's a weird choice for a performance, but alright.
Cut to her apartment. Her and Bernadette in the apartment.
Yes.
Saying that it's kind of like the same setup as Cabrini Green's apartments. Shows her...
Basically what she's saying is her apartment got gentrified. So it was one of the Cabrini Green places, but what they did was they cleaned it up. It's across, like, it's past the railroad tracks, so it keeps the gangs out, so they just put up plaster.
Because they're afraid of trains.
Apparently.
Like, we get you!
But there's a train!
This track wasn't here!
Yeah!
You lucky.
Mm-hmm.
The whole other sides of the tracks thing.
So they put up plaster to cover the cinder block, and they just sort of... Like, it is literally the same thing. And she goes, oh, look, there's nothing blocking, you know, the next apartment from mine. She pulls down her medicine cabinet, which is the world's smallest medicine cabinet I've ever seen in my life. Doesn't seem to have much fucking depth to it.
Yeah.
Pulls it out, pushes out the other one in the next room, like, look, see, we can go in there. And then, excuse for jump scare. And then...
I like that it's like a really big apartment. And they mention it going, how much for this place? I don't ask.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no. There's no way a teacher... on a teacher's salary, this is Friends all over again. Well, there's no way on a teacher's salary you can afford a place this massive.
Actually, they can. If Xander Berkeley's tenured, they can.
I guess.
Because she's not making any money. But if he's tenured, he's making bank.
I guess, but still, I don't know.
And it's Chicago on the cusp of fucking gang neighborhoods. Not